1450 96.1 Big X Sports Radio. Roman Kelly's here. Producer Matthew's here. You guys are here on the Big X text line, 502-414-1450. Roman, I've got a soccer topic. We don't need to spend a ton of time. Everyone's like, oh, my God, I can hear the groans. But I did want to ask you about this because it popped up on my stories to read today. First of all, I didn't even know that this was a thing. The Club World Cup is coming to the United States. And this is sort of being viewed as like a kind of a kickoff for the World Cup is a year away. We're going to be hosting that. And apparently, like, nobody's buying tickets. So you've got Inter Milan, who is playing what's the Miami team? Inter Miami.
Inter Miami, yep.
You've got Lionel Messi, all this stuff happening, and they're going to be taking on, I guess they're actually playing Inter Miami versus the Egyptian team, Al Ahly. They're going to play at Hard Rock Stadium. Capacity there, 65,326. Tickets right now sold for the game are reportedly at less than 20,000. FIFA saying, don't worry about it. They've slashed tickets now twice. Like the tickets they thought this was going to be this huge, gigantic event, and now they've had to cut tickets to a very reasonable price, down to like $45 to go see this. This is half of what they were available for in May. Tickets were at that time $230 for the cheapest seat in January, and then $349 after the draw in December. I am beginning to get worried about the World Cup. We didn't do great with the CONCACAF thing. That was supposed to be sort of like the trial run. There were a lot of issues there. People are also talking about some foreign countries getting worried about some of the things that our government is doing and potentially having issues coming over here and playing. And now we've got this happening. Ease my fears that the World Cup is going to be okay, because this is a big deal for soccer in America.
It's just 100% too massive, Mike. What it means to represent your country in a tournament that you can only play in every 4 years, and the opportunity to go watch your team is just too massive. I think with the last showing of the World Cup, how many countries made it out? I think that maybe USA and the USA fans in each specific stadium that they're going to be playing in might not come out like we want them to, but the countries are all going to come in. Every country is going to be as many fans as you can imagine in each of these stadiums whenever they play.
Well, that's the issue. Like, are we ready for this? Are we going to screw this thing up?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think so. I think we've got enough.
It's the biggest World Cup ever.
It is.
48 teams.
There's enough billion-dollar stadiums and billion-dollar arenas to make this happen. I think they'll be okay. I think that the Club World Cup was actually going to be better than people think, too. I know that it hasn't shown like it's online to being, but it's just it's too massive. When the tickets actually come to when the games are about to be played, I think most of those games will be sold out. I really do.
Okay. That's all I wanted to hear. I just wanted
World Cup will definitely be fine. We'll be fine. FIFA will get their act together. They'll create some regulations on how we have to operate and stuff, I'm sure, by the time we get there. And then all of the other countries' fans, as long as there's a smooth process to getting them hoteled and fed and in the cities that their teams are playing in and traveling to the other cities after they win, we'll be fine. That's what more so I worry about. The logistics of once everything's started and you got Brazil playing in New York and then Brazil playing in Atlanta, can all the Brazil fans get there in time, or if that happens. You'll have time in between group stages and stuff, but still, if everything's okay logistically, I'm sure we'll be fine.
I do want to give a quick shout out before we get back to the text line. We mentioned we had the top. I got very impassioned about the College Football Hall of Fame lowering its standards to basically get Mike Leach in, but not lowering the win percentage to a point where Howard Schnellenberger, who actually won a national title, could get in. We do have good news in the College Football Hall of Fame. Elvis Dumervil, the former Louisville star who obviously was a star in the NFL for a long time after that, has been officially nominated for the College Football Hall of Fame. Dumervil set virtually every sack record here, including most sacks in a single game. I was there in Lexington, 2005, 6 sacks against Kentucky, including one where he forced a fumble. The play was whistled dead, but he stiff-armed the hell out of somebody after he tried to tackle him. The best part about that game, this is the all-time, there's no close second. greatest rivalry quote of all time, greatest petty, like, I refuse to give anything. So Elvis Dumervil, I mean, humiliates Kentucky in this game. Unblockable, is just in Audrey Wilson's face the entire time. Again, 6 sacks in a single game. Still a school record. It'll probably never be broken. After the game, Kentucky's Fatu Turi, who was the tackle who was in charge of blocking Elvis Dumervil, was asked about, like, how good is he? Like, he looked like he was pretty good out there. And he said, he's really not that good. He's very blockable. He's not really a good player. We were just missing assignments. The all-time greatest, like, I refuse to give anybody credit rivalry quote of all time was that one. Dumervil, by the way, went on to go ahead and win the Bronco Nagurski Award for the best lineman in college football that season. But Fatu Turi, somewhere reading this,
shameless,
maybe listening to the show, just know Elvis Dumervil is probably about to go in the College Football Hall of Fame. I don't think you're going to make it, buddy. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Big X text line is 502-414-1450. More from you guys here as we inch closer and closer to the 5 o'clock hour. Texter said, this is Little Dumper. The person formerly known as Little Dumper. No, you're still Little Dumper. You are still Little Dumper. The person formerly known as Little Dumper. Big Dumper is a bigger dump than me. Also, Roman, have you ever driven a Yukon? Don't answer that. He's trying to get you.
I don't know it.
He's going to say Yukon 50s.
Oh,
one of those. It's one of those.
Not the GMC SUV.
You're not going to get me there. You're not going to do that. He also said, I believe this was in reaction to your segment with TJ Walker. Said TJ really doesn't know ball. At least from my perspective, they are not a top 3 roster, and he even admitted that they will be at best an average shooting team. For anybody who wasn't listening, you guys were going down, kind of breaking down the UK U of L rosters. You guys were giving who you thought your starting fives would be. I agree with both of you that the biggest advantage that you can point to for Kentucky right now is their depth. Like, they do it. Like they've got like 14 guys that can all play reasonably high minutes, assuming that their freshmen are as good as you want them to be. But, I mean, I definitely agree with both of you two that we are the superior shooting team. I don't care who you're saying is better than the other. I think saying Kentucky is a top 3 roster right now, maybe I'm wrong. It's preseason. We're all just giving opinions. I think that that's a fairly significant stretch.
He is saying with a fully healthy Jaden Quaintance in that.
I stand by my statement. I still don't think that that's a top 3 roster. And I think Quaintance is going to be really good. I do. But I can't get there at this point until I like a lot of the pieces that they have. I think Denzel Aberdeen is going to be really good for them. I mean, he was going to be a starter this year for a team that still has a very reasonable chance to repeat as national champions. I love, Jalen Lowe did some good things against us last year, obviously, even though we kind of kicked his ass both times. I think, getting Otega away. He's the leading scorer back for a team that was good last year, no question about it. Some of the pieces, how they're going to fit together, I'm not entirely sure. And do you have the shooting? Mark Pope's offense, you kind of have to have the shooting. If that wavers.
That was a point that I was making.
Yeah. I mean, Cam Williams can shoot it. How much is he going to play? Like, they're going to have a lot of guys vying for minutes. It's a luxury to have a lot of guys with similar skill sets. I just don't know that unless Owe, and he was good last year, but unless he gets even better, like, do you have that multifaceted superstar who can kind of carry you in March? He couldn't do it last year. Maybe he'll get a lot better. Maybe somebody else will step up and fulfill that role. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a question for us too, but I think there are enough questions with that roster to justifiably say that they're not just like this 5-star top 3. Maybe they can get there, but on paper, I think that there are a lot of teams that have superior rosters right now. Not a lot, but several. Enough to justify putting them at like number 10, which is what I did today. Did you see the story about North Carolina today?
I saw something about North Carolina. Yeah.
So you did?
I saw something about North Carolina.
The story that came out today is, and this is via like Inside Carolina, it's Carolina reporters, that they spent $14 million on their roster for the upcoming season. Now, look, I'm somebody, and I think I've mentioned this before, I'm higher on North Carolina's roster than a lot of people seem to be. I think they've done some good things. I've got them, I think, 23rd in my new top 25. If they spent $14 million on that roster, though, they absolutely did not get their money's worth. And then keep in mind, this comes with the addendum of they made waves this offseason by hiring a GM who's going to assist in all the NIL ins and outs. They're apparently paying that guy $895,000 to work that job. So if you're lumping that in and saying that this GM is part of the NIL situation, we're talking about a $14 million roster, a $1 million GM, and then a multi-million-dollar head coach. That's a ton of money. It also, I think, adds into the belief that this is a make-or-break season for Hubert Davis. If you don't, making the NCAA tournament's not enough with this. You're putting about as much money as anybody into your roster. Again, reportedly, without seeing national title results, if they're not at least competing for a national championship this season, and I don't think that they're going to be, you got to cut ties here.
The bust of a year. It's Final Four minimum.
It has to be if you're putting $14 million into a roster. Now, Jeff Goodman says that Kentucky's somewhere in the $20 million range. Everyone who covers Kentucky is saying that's not true. What the actual number is, who the hell knows? Kentucky, if you're asking me who's spending the most money on their roster, I would say it's Kentucky or BYU, just based on the figures that are tossed around out there. If this Carolina number is accurate, I would say that they're probably a safe number 3. So if you're paying a GM this money, you're paying a roster top 3 money, you better get top 10 at the bare minimum results. Or it's kind of like cut ties with everybody. Let's start from scratch. We clearly have the money to get this done. Let's get the people in here who can make the most out of that situation. But I was shocked by that number.
14 is ridiculous, Mike.
14, for what they've got, just seems fairly outrageous. Texter says, 502-414-1450, in the next 5 years, I bet that Jeff Walz and Dan Meskey will leave for other jobs because of how little money will be allocated for women's programs. This has been a concern for a long. This was a big concern when Tom Jurich left. Jurich was very big on giving the non-revenue sports, the coaches for those sports, top 10 contracts, even when those programs weren't producing at a top 10 level. He wanted to pay the coaches as much money as he felt like they deserved. Moving forward, yeah, you're going to have to take away salaries from coaches of sports that don't produce a ton of revenue because you've got to find money to field competitive rosters. But here's the question that I would have. If women's basketball is one thing. You've got programs out there that have money because they've got SEC money. They've been good forever. They could maybe lure Jeff Walz away, but that's always sort of been the case. With volleyball, let's just assume for the sake of this conversation, Roman, that Dan Meskey is going to continue doing what Danny Busboom Kelly was doing. We're going to keep being a top 5 program competing for national titles. How many other programs out there can really pay you that much more money for volleyball or going to want to dedicate that much money for a volleyball head coach?
Teams that already have a head coach.
Probably, like Nebraska, who just did it with Danny, Texas, maybe Wisconsin.
Teams that are only going to grab established, someone who's proven already.
Right. You've got the Big Ten's got more money than we do. We know that. And that you've got a handful of programs there that take a great deal of pride in their volleyball programs being so good. Outside of that, no one's going to pay you more or pay a volleyball head coach that much more than I think U of L is going to be willing to. So while it's possible, especially when it comes to Walz, who I think would have probably already left if that was that much of a factor for him, I don't know if in those other sports it's as much of a concern. Now, if Penn State comes calling, that's a huge issue. If Wisconsin comes calling, that's a huge issue. Texas, same thing. But it's a small handful of schools that I think are going to be willing to be like, yeah, we'll pay a volleyball coach $1.8 million if we think they can win us a national title. Texas, my God, the return from commercial intro is jarring. I've been listening on the pod radio lately, so my ears haven't had a good bleeping until today. Also says my dad's take on full-body deodorant is actually pretty accurate. Well, we didn't say he was wrong. Texas, now I know Roman doesn't listen to my riddles. Henry Davis being drafted first was literally the riddle of 4.
Listen, the 4-person riddle, we kind of went through that one quickly.
We all struggled with that one.
That one was a faster riddle. We didn't get to address it in depth.
Yeah, that was tough. Dave, teacher from Jeffersonville, says, obscure music wreck. Wet Leg is the best female-led indie band you've never heard of. I have never heard of Wet Leg. You could have just made that up, and I would not be able to call you on that. I do love when I get good indie music recs because it could be someone just completely messing with me. Like, have you ever heard Lunch Table? Like, they're incredible. Like, supersonic lampshade sounds. Like, that they're going to blow your mind. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll give it a look.
You listen to Camera Phone?
Yeah, no. I can't. Are you messing with me? Is that a real band? 4th Street Lunch Table. I'll try if I can remember that name.
Love the new Dry Hair album.
It's just, I'll check it out. Text 2, was Roman trying to get the questions wrong during that quiz?
No.
It'd have been tough.
I had a couple of brain farts.
If you were trying, it would have been still pretty tough to get 0 for 10. It's almost impressive what you did.
It was a lot of pressure.
You wilted under the pressure. Texture says, Mark Weinberg is a loser. Quit scaring people away from the game because there's a 30% chance of rain.
He's just doing his job.
Leave Mark alone.
He's not a loser.
I mean, I tried to lie to everybody yesterday by accidentally reading the weather from Santa Clara.
Perfect weather Saturday.
my big fear was that somebody was kind of on the fence about pulling the trigger on tickets, heard me read the forecast that I thought was for Louisville and was actually Santa Clara, California, and was like, let's do it. Mike says we're good to go. It's going to be a perfect day. And now they're just going to get dumped on all weekend. I don't think it's going to be that bad. And if it is, little rain doesn't hurt anybody. That field, we had a literal flood here a few weeks ago. The team played baseball the next day. That stadium drains incredibly. I mean, that field drains incredibly well. Yeah, your seat may get a little wet. You may get rained on when you're there a little bit.
Part of it.
But it's not supposed to be like a full-on downpour. I went to it wasn't the super regional, but there was a year, maybe like 2013, 2014, where we played Kentucky in the regional. And I was there with Doug Davenport. We got rained on a ton. Still worth it. It was great. A lot of delays. We stuck it out. A lot of other fans did. Just adds to the festive atmosphere. You'll be fine. Texas, last year the ACC-SEC pairings were released on June 12th. They might be released soon. Who else would you be comfortable traveling on the road to face aside from Arkansas? I mean, comfortable is what, it's not about comfort. It's about wanting to play the best possible team that's out there. If it's not Arkansas, give me Auburn. I think Auburn's going to be really good. I hate Bruce Pearl with the fire of 1,000 suns. I would love to knock him off on his home floor. Bama, I don't think is going to be as good. Getting Phylon back at the last second was a big deal, but they're sort of like a borderline top 25 team, I think, going into this season. But still, it's Bama, it's NATO. They've been really good recently. All three of those schools, Arkansas, Auburn, and Alabama, they're due to host the game this year in the challenge. They all played on the road last season. Give me any one of those three, but specifically Arkansas or Auburn, and I'm going to be happy. And I wouldn't hate Alabama. I just don't think they're going to be as good as the other two. If you had to pick one of those three, I think we both would choose Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
If it's not Arkansas,
give me Bama over Auburn.
You want Bama?
Yeah.
Just style of play, make it fun, up and down, lots of threes by both teams.
I think better chance to win at that point in the season with what that roster looks like versus Auburn's roster.
There's that too. It's probably a more winnable game. I want the challenge though. Give me the big dogs.
I want the quad one win, Mike.
It would definitely be a quad one win. Oh yeah, you make a good point. What's Eric Crawford saying? Someone sent me a Twitter. I did see this. This was on my list of stuff to talk about.
Yep.
We can wrap up the hour with this. So we had the question, U of L, when they announced the signing of Evangelos Zugras, they had him wearing number 35 in all of the imaging. And Roman caught it. I mean, I guess producer Keith.
Eric was listening to the show.
He must have been. Or someone at U of L was listening to the show and hit him up, and they're like, hey, just so you know, we're not doing this. But people pointed out that's the same number 35, worn by Darrell Griffith, who, of course, had his jersey retired back in 1980. And to answer the question that you had, it has not been reissued since his Hall of Fame career here. So Eric reached out for clarification. Dana Brown, the U of L basketball SID / spokesperson, confirmed Zugras is not going to wear the retired number. While he's worn 35 in some previous seasons, he will not be wearing the retired Darrell Griffith. I mean, we kind of knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
you've seen. I mentioned this when
the
we were
social media team just grabbed his last number from his most recent team, which is 35 on his Greek team. So,
and you probably had somebody producing that who didn't know that 35's retired here. I mean, I said there've been a couple of programs out there. I know Carolina for a fact did it. I think with like John Henson. It was a weird situation where they had a retired number. They landed a big recruit. The big recruit has always worn that number, and the player himself stepped up and was like, "Hey, I'm fine with you wearing my number. We can unretire for this season. Or it can stay retired, but you can wear it. Whatever. The rules on this are strange anyway." I did not see Darrell Griffith being like, "Yeah, Vangelis Zugris can rock my 35. I'm going to go ahead and take one for the team here. He's got to wear 35." If this were like Michael Brown or like Tyron Stokes, maybe you would step up and you'd have something similar for one season, but you kind of figured that this was going to be the case. I mean, what if it was like Russ Smith being like, I want Spencer Legg to wear number 2. It's got to happen. We've got to get Spencer Legg in here. I mean, Russ probably would do it. Russ probably wouldn't care. All right, we guess we have time for one more, right? Texas, remember that weird time Sidney Curry was a top 5 player in the ACC for like a month? It was one of the weirdest things of all time. Sidney Curry looked terrible for the first half of that season. And, like, he took I still wonder, like, how much of it was just – he was taking the weirdest shots at the end of the 2022 season, and they all were going in. He was dominant, and he was the one guy that, like, we've got to get him back. We've got to get him back. We got him back, and he was terrible the next year. But a lot of that I put on Kenny Payne for not making him do any sort of workouts whatsoever, clearly. All right, we got to go to break. When we come back, we'll have the 5 o'clock half hour with me. Then you'll have the 5:30 to 6 hour, the recap with Roman. Producer Matthew's going to be here as well. Keep it locked right here. It's the Mike Rutherford Show presented by United Mechanical, 1450 Big X. period from 2005 to like 2007, maybe. The guy, it was just hit after hit after hit. Drive Slow, Kanye. It's incredible. Paul Wall. It was a joke back then. You go back and listen. It holds up. He's the Iceman. He looks like me now. He's like 40, doesn't have the grills anymore. But he was, for a brief period there, was very, very good. I enjoy the music there. It's the 5 o'clock hour of the Mike Rutherford Show, presented by United Mechanical, 1450 96.1 Big X Sports Radio. Roman Kelly, producer Matthew are here as we roll on, again, getting closer and closer to Friday's Super Regional between Louisville and Miami. There is notable, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on this because we have a lot of text to get to still in a very short period of time. There is a couple of notable sporting events tonight. We got Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals between, it's a rematch, Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. And then I think that there's some renewed interest in the softball College World Series. And, Roman, are you familiar with what's going on with this Texas Tech pitcher? This is a crazy story that is just now starting to get a lot of attention.
No, I don't.
So, Nigeri Kennedy, she was a star last year and was brought in to pitch at Texas Tech, a program that was bad, like had a losing record last year. But she was the best pitcher in was the USA Softball Collegiate Pitcher of the Year at Stanford last season.
Okay.
And Texas Tech went out and they're like, we're going to give you $1.2 million, softball player, to come play for us. And this was like a big offseason storyline. And the near unanimous reaction was, that's a waste of money. Like, you're never going to get a solid return on investment there. 1.2 mil for a softball player. Can you really go from a team with a losing record to a team that's going to compete for a national title just because you went out there and you signed the best pitcher in the sport? And the answer to that question is yes. She's pitched every single pitch, every single inning of every single game that Texas Tech has played in the postseason. And they, in the semifinals, to punch their ticket to the championship series, they had to knock off Oklahoma, which was the 4-time defending national champion. And it was a wild-ass finish if anybody was watching this a couple nights ago. So Oklahoma had not been shut out in 6 years. No shutout. They scored at least one run every single game for 6 years. It's the last inning, and Kennedy's one pitch away from shutting out Oklahoma. It's 2-0. The Sooners have a runner on first. It's a 1-2 count. One strike away, and the girl hits a home run, ties the game at 2. High drama. It was crazy. But Texas Tech ends up scoring in the next inning. They win the game 3-2. They're going to play Texas in the College World Series. But, yeah, you've got a softball pitcher who signs for $1.2 million with the Matador Club, which is Texas Tech's NIL collective. She is college softball's, as you might guess, first member of the $1 Million Club. Do you think that this becomes potentially a trend where in sports like this, where you may not have a $1 million return on investment, but schools say, look, we want to win a national title. We're going to go out there and we're going to pay however many $1 million for the number one volleyball player, softball player, whatever player, to lacrosse player, field hockey player, to come to our program and boost us to national championship status. Do you think that we see a trend now?
Temporarily.
Okay.
I think you start to see one in the next couple of years in that, like volleyball, baseball, soccer, maybe even lacrosse kind of sports. You'll see it. Like if we can just go get if there is an athlete out there who is head and shoulders above the rest, especially at a specific position of importance like pitching, let's just go see what we can do with them. I don't think a lot of schools will do this though, Mike, because it'll be more so, again, I think a more common SEC thing, I think, or like a mid-major kind of a thing that has that one donor that's just outrageously rich.
Yeah.
Schools in the other conferences, they're going to have to cut back on some of these kind of sports and how much they're giving out to their athletes in some of those other sports to cover with the amount of money that they've got to pay all around in their athletic departments. So I don't think it'll be too common, but in those little specific scenarios, until there is some NIL regulations, I think you're going to see this happen a little bit more going forward for the next couple of years.
Where's Texas Tech's money coming from? I mean, it's not Big Ten, it's not SEC. They got JT Toppin to come back for the basketball team. They're bringing in a bunch of talent for basketball.
No idea.
And they're not even like a big basketball fan base. But yeah, Texas Tech last year in softball in the Big 12 was 6-16. They went 20-4 in the Big 12 this year. And it's not, it's not like this was a gigantic portal class. She was the only really major change from last year to this year. And she single-handedly took them. They've won 53 games this year. and they're now a pair of wins away from winning a national championship. I guess that makes it worth it. But it's a huge risk.
It is.
Let's say Oklahoma wins that game, and
she gets injured.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. They took a leap of faith here, and they're 2 wins away from pulling off a pretty significant heist. But that'll be tonight, going on at the same time as the first game of the Stanley Cup Final. So you've got 2 decent sporting options out there, in addition to the standard Major League Baseball schedule, which does not include the Cincinnati Reds, who were beaten 9-1. 29th consecutive series, Roman, that the Reds have lost when losing Game 1. That still dates back over 2 years. And it's the 12th consecutive series that the Reds have lost to the Brewers.
Jeez.
Thank God we gave Wade Miley $2.4 million today, though. We're going to be okay. Big X text line is 502-414-1450. I'm going to try to get to as many of these as we can before we get to 525 here. Texter says, Louisville Runs Week, sponsored by Tom Drexler Plumbing. I like that idea. Everything's got to have a sponsor now. Texas, Mike, can you get me 50 tickets to the Super Regionals? Yes. For you, anonymous texter, I absolutely can. Texas, cool experience, Mike. I'm listening to your show while walking around Central Park, and then sends in a picture.
It is really cool.
Look at that.
I hope to do that one day.
Just listen to the Rutherford show?
Yeah.
While you're in, I mean, if you're in Central Park, you're not listening to the show. You're on vacation. You wouldn't tune in.
We got call in.
I did listen to the show one time when I was on vacation. Hilton Head, like a kid's pool beach, listening to John Ramsey and a guest host do the show. And then I was like, all right, it's June. I can take some time off.
Off the show for a reason.
Just disconnect, yeah. Text this for sports moments that stick. My sophomore year baseball team was very good. Almost all juniors and seniors and multiple guys who were going on to college, including a D1 guy. I surprisingly got the start in the first game of the year and was hitting in the 2-hole. I went on to drive in 4 runs, including a home run, and we won against the top team in the state 6-3. It was my only home run of my entire high school career, and I went on to be a consistent starter for the whole season. That's cool. That's a good moment to have. Texas SeatGeek now has berm tickets for Friday for only $25. So there's still tickets out there if you want to, venture out there with the standing room only folks.
Like a blanket.
$25. Well, you're not gonna be able to get a blanket down. I don't think.
Probably not.
It's gonna be a tough call. Someone else sent in a StubHub link. Now I'm seeing the cheapest ticket out there being $35 for a general admission ticket is $35. If you want to get more, it's going to cost you. So there's a ticket down the right field line right now is $178. It's a very costly ticket. I feel even worse though for the guy who spent $250 on berm tickets. It's like you can get seats behind home plate for $160, which is it's still a pretty penny, but it's better than $250 for the berm, which is now going for $35.
That's rough.
Was it my weather report that did it?
Yeah.
Just pushed him to pull the trigger. Text that I've had a hell's itch, and I co-sign on SP's description. I too work at UP. Oh, I don't know. Is this? I too work at UPS, but I'm a driver, and holy moly. When you are in a hot box with that sensation, it really is the worst experience. It had to be 90 plus. I don't know. This is a Scoots text, I think. It had to be 90 plus, and the sweating only seemed to make it worse. Lather up, Scoots. Not the first time Scoots has heard that. Texas says, a lot of ifs from Roman there. The World Cup is definitely in trouble.
Don't deter me. I'm feeling confident.
Let him feel good about it. He's trying to bring some positivity. Texas Turi is the GOAT of denial. There's the gift. I was looking for this gift to share when I posted the news of the Elvis Dumervil getting the College Football Hall of Fame nomination. It's him just being stiff-armed into oblivion. It's a great moment. That was a terrifying game, though. That was the game where I famously, in my own mind, wore the Got Patino shirt in the middle of the UK student section. Back in the early days of Rick being here. Something that you look back out and you're like, I was just the dumbest kid in the entire world. Why was I possibly doing that? But the thing was, I had confidence because, Kentucky football sucked back then. We were supposed to win that game by 1 billion points. It got very close late in the game. But thankfully, Kentucky fans had all filed out at halftime because we were up 24-7. Texas, you guys are betting men. What would you say is the over-under for how many World Cup attendees are accidentally sent to the El Salvadorian gulag by the Department of Homeland Security? Well, I'm not going to bite there. Texas, the Michael highlights that are out there. Tube socks. Stop doing the tube socks thing, Lazard guy. Texas, I'm heading to the Super Regional on Friday. Do you know if the alley will be open and hopping? I don't think so. There are places where you can go and kind of do a de facto tailgate. I would be, you can park it at Cardinal Stadium for the game, I would be willing to bet there are people who are set up there like late morning, early afternoon, doing a little bit of tailgating. They're also
in the parking lot across the street there.
Yeah.
Or in the Kroger parking lot, they might be doing some over there as well.
You'll probably see some folks down the left field line. Now, there used to be, I don't know if it's still student housing anymore. There used to be a house down like the left field line where, I mean, it's obviously behind the stadium officially, but like you could stand, like people would stand on the roof, and they called the house the dugout. And I know because there was a period of time where I was like, I was older than you. It was like 28, 29. And the college kids who lived in the dugout, like every Friday or Saturday night, a couple of them would get very, very drunk and send me messages like, "You got to come to the dugout, man. You got." And at one point, Mary was like, "You should just do it. Like, let's go." And I'm like, "We can't." I was like, "We can't handle this right now. We're too old for this. We can't make it happen." I don't know if they still call it the dugout or if it's even still U of L property. Shout out to my guy Ryan Keeling. But it was always one of the coolest scenes about having postseason baseball at Louisville is you would have the students and some other people just like standing on the houses and watching the games over the left field line.
Yeah, I remember 2018 or 2019, I can recall of it being super populated down there. Can't drive through or something. I thought that was postseason right then.
We played 2019. We hosted the Super Regional.
Okay,
and the regional. We went to the College World Series. Yeah.
That's what it was. I can recall the fans on the like 2 or 3 houses had multiple people up on them.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume that's still the case. Texas Dave, teacher from Jeffersonville, said, "Oh yeah, 4th Street lunch table is definitely the best. They've got this great guitar sound, man. That just like you can't imitate it. Just 4th Street lunch table." Little Dumper says, "What do I have to do to get rid of the Little Dumper name?" Nothing. You're Little Dumper. I literally just read your name as I read your text. You did this to yourself. You know how much effort it took me to figure out how to edit contacts in the text group app? It took me like 5 weeks. I've got to reload the whole page when I edit somebody's name. It's a whole thing. You're Little Dumper. Yeah, he was about to make a D's nuts joke on you with the Yukon. I caught it for you. I wasn't going to let that happen to you. Texas Bruce Pearl's a MAGA racist. Prove me wrong. He is very, very conservative. There's no question about that. Texas, obviously, Roman isn't old enough to know who Danny Ferry is, but Duke unretired his number 35 number for Marvin Bagley. Danny Ferry had his number retired? Yeah,
Marvin Bagley unretired though.
Bagley was a huge
number
deal.
1 recruit. I get it.
You look back now, but like
looking back, yeah, he's just
people talked about Bagley as like Zion ended up becoming what Bagley was supposed to be in college, and he was really good in college. I want to say he was still a first-team All-American, but he wasn't this like, you know, he had the title. He's one of like 35 guys who've had the title. He's the best recruit since LeBron. Like he had that title. People talked about him that way for years. And so at that time, I think it would have made sense for anybody. He was a recruit worthy of someone stepping up and doing that. He also had the great distinction of like the great story about him going to Duke when his family, they had filed for bankruptcy in like 2015, and then 2 years later they bought a $750,000 house. It's like, oh, the Bagley family. That's the people were like, why did Adidas get caught and why didn't Nike get caught? And it's because Nike's better at this sort of thing. What Nike always did, and this is common knowledge now. I mean, not common knowledge, but you can find it. I'm not just like sharing crazy secrets. When Nike recognized a kid who was 14, 15, 16 who was going to be the next gigantic thing, what they could always do was go to their AAU teams or tell them to launch their own AAU team. Like Marvin Bagley's dad launched their own AAU team. They sucked. They had Marvin Bagley Jr. and nobody else who was good. And Nike could legally, this is all legal, pay them like $1.5 million for, jerseys and travel and tournament entries. And so this was how they always got away with stuff because it's completely by the book. Nike can decide how much to fund the AAU programs that they outfit, whatever they want. So for most programs, it's like, here's $10,000 for whatever. But every now and then you'd have a big-time recruit whose team just so happened to need like $2 million worth of jerseys and stuff, and that's how the money legally was given to players who would end up going to Kentucky or Duke or whatever Nike school Nike wanted them to go to. So that, and the Bagley one was the most shamelessly obvious, and there was nothing anybody could do about it because technically it's by the book. But he had an AAU team that I don't think ever won a game on the EYBL circuit or anything like that. But somehow they were getting like $5 million over the course of 2 years for that team to exist. Texas says, remember when Baycott clotheslined Curry and Curry had a foul called on him? Yeah, me too. Bleep the ACC. It's so weird because that.
I remember that.
And that was the most notable awful call. But that was the biggest, because at that time, North Carolina very clearly, like they were, this was the year that they ended up going to the Final Four as an 8 seed. But they were kind of on the outside looking in of the NCAA tournament bubble there. And so the ACC needed them. You couldn't lose to a bad Louisville team at that point in time. I know that was a bad Louisville season, and we've tried to forget about it. That was the last MAC year, the Mike Pegues year. That still was one of the most mad I've ever been after a regular season game. Like, because it was the biggest. I just remember Scott Van Pelt came on SportsCenter afterwards, like, you don't see a whistle like this on your home floor very often. I mean, it was a shameless screw job. And, like, that team, they still, like, were trying really hard and playing really hard, and they kind of quit after that game, I feel like. But they deserved that win, for sure. Texas, since we still don't really know what these international guys are going to look like, I've just been falling back on the fact that it's simply 3 to 4 more able bodies that we had for the majority of last year due to injury. Even if these guys were all pretty mediocre, how good do you think a PK team can be simply with a solid 10 to 12 man rotation? I mean, I'll be shocked if Fru's not good. I'm not saying he's going to be like this
all ACC.
Yeah, top 3 big man or all ACC. I think he's going to be a good player for us this coming season. I know less of what to expect from Zugris and Kamara, but I feel like Fru is going to be a good player. I think the other 2 guys will be more role players. But, yeah, I mean, we're definitely, as long as everybody stays healthy, we've got 12 guys that I think
14 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 2 blocks per game good.
Fru?
Not to put stats on it, Mike.
Yeah, no. It's tough to call with him basically splitting playing time in the middle. I was going to say more close to like
12 and 7,
11 and 8, somewhere around there is the first thing that came to my mind. But, you know, games where he's a better fit than Ali, assuming Ali's eligible to go, where he plays bigger minutes and has bigger stat lines, and then some games where Khalifa's the better fit and we don't need him to do as much, and, you know, he's more of a defensive presence. But I think he's going to be good. Let's see. Lions fan John says, thanks to the Big X for startling my son so much that he almost cried. The volume control is a problem. Okay. Dave, just blame Dave. Fine. I don't even know if Dave's on social media, but he's a fault. We're making kids cry on a daily basis now at this point with the audio issues. This is like the 7th time we've had somebody say like their kid started crying.
It's just the legal ID, though, I believe, right?
Just the legal ID. Texas, for a show, you should do indie band name or derby horse. That's a good one. What's a derby horse name that sounds like an indie band?
Sovereignty.
Sovereignty could absolutely be an indie band.
What was that American? What was the one that was American?
Pharaoh?
No, this year.
Oh yeah, it's like
America's
Daydream. American Dream, Daydream. It was a bad horse.
You hated it.
I did. I think deservedly. It was a bad horse. I'm looking at the Belmont Field this year. Blood Horse is a terrible website. I enjoy it, but it's impossible. Uncaged. There might be a band. I would be willing to bet that there's a band named Uncaged right now. I'm going to look it up.
I almost feel it. 04 hit from Uncaged. You probably know a song from Uncaged, Mike.
They had one song that made it big on Laguna Beach. That's how you know them. Well, Uncaged is a Zach Brown tribute album, so there's no way to find an actual. Oh, there's absolutely an Uncaged band. They've got 5,000 followers on Facebook. There you go. Texas, is it possible that Texas Tech is getting money from Patrick Mahomes? He's always supporting their athletic programs on social media.
Wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think he's giving them like enough money to get all of the players they're getting, but he's definitely donating money to the program. He's a proud, loyal alum. I mean, look, we're getting help from Donovan Mitchell. There's no question about that.
I feel like Pat Mahomes is the type to be like, yeah, this is just money for football for you guys.
Yeah. Although he goes to basketball games, I think.
He does. He did. In the tournament, I think, too.
Someone's just sent in this tweet from May. Texas Tech just paid a softball player over $1 million. Their NIL football budget's over $50 million. It's all funded by a billionaire, Cody Campbell. This guy who, there's a picture of him with Donald Trump. I don't know what he actually does, but there you go. We got to get a billionaire. We got to get a billionaire U of L fan. Roman, I need you to start making billions of dollars. And just
my plan.
Campbell is the co-chief executive officer and co-founder of Double Eagle Energy Holdings. You knew it was going to be an oil thing or an energy thing.
Yeah.
That's how all these Texas programs are going to work. Yeah, it's a gas firm. Big oil money.
Oil money.
Trying to get that oil. Texas fun fact, I shot that clip of Elvis Dumervil stiff-arming the guy. Did you really? That's a great fact. Props to you. Every time I hear the name Elvis Dumervil, I think of that specific clip. Every message board, back in the day when message boards were thriving, every Louisville message board poster had that GIF as like their sign-off thing, that when they would write a post, it would pop up every single time. I saw that GIF probably 17,000 times in like 2006.
This is like a photographer's area.
Yeah. Lazard guy, we're not changing your name to Tube Sock guy. It's not happening. Texas, I think Little Dumper needs to send you proof that he takes medium to large dumps to lose the name. That's not happening either. These are terrible suggestions. Texas NCAA tournament fact, only 5 freshmen have won Final Four MOP. Arnie Farron from Utah, Purvis Ellison from Louisville, Carmelo Anthony from Syracuse, Anthony Davis from Kentucky, and Tyus Jones from Duke. I feel like I could have gotten...
Tyus Jones did?
Tyus Jones did. I feel like I could have gotten 4. My apologies to Arnie Farron. I'm not familiar with your game. Texas, the funniest thing about Marvin Bagley is that when he declared for the NBA draft, he signed with Puma over Nike. It was wonderful. I mean, it's like the Dennis Smith Jr. stuff, where he fleeced everybody. We found out from the Adidas files that he took money from Under Armour and then signed with an Adidas school, and then I think signed with Nike coming out of college. Like he was like, I'm taking your money. And he was smart enough to say, I'm going to take your money and not sign with you. Try to call me out. See how that goes with you in the court of public opinion when you guys are giving me dirty money.
Smart.
Yeah, it's very smart. Texas, speaking of message boards, is Evan Daniels alive? Evan Daniels is very much alive. In fact, he's probably the agent of your favorite college basketball head coach besides Pat Kelsey. He is Rick Pitino is his client. I would venture to say like 50% of power conference head coaches are represented by Evan now. He made a ton of money doing scouting services for coaches for a long time. Obviously did great work with Scout, worked for Fox Sports, and then decided to go into to agency because of all the connections that he had, and he's doing very well with that. Texas says, I just pulled up that Curry foul on YouTube, and it was amazing was amazed at even how good and loud the crowd was back there before KP. Oh yeah, we were into it still at that point. Scoot Tater said, oh my God, the cicadas by Hirschborn Parkway are terribly loud. I saw a video on social media today about a guy who lives in, I think, J-Town, who like shook a tree outside of his house, and it's like hundreds of cicadas just flew out.
Wow.
So it's happening out there. We're just not being directly affected by it. Take this is going to sound terrible. We had a billionaire and then he died. Rest in peace. We did, but I also don't think that Junior was going to give quite that much to U of Athletics, although he definitely helped out. Let's make some predictions. You're saving your big X big bets for your show.
Oilers are taking game 1, Mike.
Okay, we've got NHL game 1 tonight. Are you with me on the Oilers bandwagon? Also,
yes.
Are we like unpatriotic for rooting for the team?
It's like a patriotic mindset to want them to win. You know.
I mean, also it's Florida. Like, I'm gonna say it's Florida. They don't deserve 4 Stanley Cups in 5 years. This would be 5 Stanley Cups in 6 years. They don't deserve that. The poor people of Canada have been begging for a Stanley Cup since 1993. Edmonton had the glory years of the late 80s. They've been ass ever since. Connor McJesus deserves a Stanley Cup.
Needs one.
I'm rooting for him. The betting is even tonight. Florida's even money. Edmonton's minus 120. I think the Oilers get it done in game 1 as well. I think it's going to be a great series. And then we mentioned the NCAA softball World Series tonight, game 1. I believe first pitch is the exact same. I think they're both starting at 8. But it's Texas versus Texas Tech. I'm all in at Texas on Texas Tech at this point. I want them to win. I don't root for Texas in anything. I refuse to root for them here. But who takes game 1 of this College World Series final?
I think Texas A&M does.
Okay, it is 8 o'clock. First pitch. Did you say Texas A&M?
Yeah.
They're not playing.
Or Texas Tech, I'm sorry.
Give me Texas Tech. They're the 12th seed in this tournament, too. Typically, I feel like college softball, the top seeds just dominate. But they're the 12th seed. Texas is the 6th seed. Game 2 will be tomorrow at 8 o'clock as well. And then if they need a game 3, it'll be Friday night at 8 o'clock. All 3 games on ESPN. All right, we got recap with Roman. Keep it locked right here. Producer Matthew's going to hang around. You'll hear his big X, big bets. You'll hear him roll with whatever he's got. Maybe recap some stuff that we talked about on this show. I'm back tomorrow at 2:30. Early reminder, Friday's show will be just 2 to 3, so program everything accordingly. This has been the Mike Rutherford Show presented by United Mechanical. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Go Cards.
Go Cards.